in to Real Talk with Tasha, and we're here with my artist of the week, Miss Joreen Sykes. Sykes. All right, so Miss Sykes, Joreen, is my guest this week, and she wrote a book titled 4 a.m. Now, I am going to read an excerpt from it, and then we're going to get right into my interview, okay? And so this excerpt should give you a little piece of what her book is about. It says, "Please don't ask me if I'm over it yet. I'll never get over it. Please don't tell me he's in a better place. He's not here with me. Please don't say at least he isn't suffering. I haven't come to terms with why he had to suffer at all. Please don't tell me you know how I feel unless you have lost a child. Please don't ask me if I feel better. Bereavement isn't a condition that clears up and goes away. Please don't tell me you had him for so many years. What year would you choose for your child to die?" That's a mouthpiece right there. That's a mouthful. Can you go ahead and tell the viewers who you are and just tell them about your book?
My name is Joreen Sykes, as she said. I'm a mother of two. I am currently a daycare provider. My book is about my son Marcus, who was taken away from me way too soon, October 11th of 2011. He was 22 years old. My book is basically every emotion, every feeling that I was having after his death. It took me 2 years. Well, let me start by saying my book was not intended to be a book. It was my journal. And after 2 years of writing, I decided that someone could benefit from this. Someone needs to hear what it was that I'm going through so that they know what to say, what not to say, and some of the things when they say I understand what you're going through, they can really mean it. So that's why I decided to turn my journal into a book.
All right, so Miss Joreen, can I call you Joreen?
Absolutely.
I read your book. And as I told you before, it only took me about 3 hours to read your book.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a small book, it's not a big book, it's a medium-sized book. 3 hours to go through this book. And as me and you were talking earlier, I can't say I liked the book, mm-hmm. but what I liked about your book was the transparency inside of it. Mm-hmm. As you stated earlier, this originally was your journal.
Right.
When did you start journaling?
I started journaling about 2 weeks after he passed away.
And was it every single night?
Not every single night. I think I journaled mostly when I was feeling the most emotional. When it was something that I just had to get off my chest, or something that just wasn't right with what was going on with his case, or with just anything. When my feelings were just so overwhelming, I just had to get it down on paper.
And can you give the viewers a snapshot of who your son was, and what this book, you said why you were writing it, but a snapshot of it, like who your son was and what happened.
My son was my heart. That's who he was. He was my oldest of two. To give a little bit of detail without giving up too much of the book.
Right.
He was killed at a gas station on 13, right in front of the Home Depot. Mm-hmm. He was there. His car was disabled. Mm-hmm. He was there by himself, but people was in and out. From my understanding, that gas station was typically a hangout for kids after mm-hmm. they leave the club and so forth. Mm-hmm. And he was there for maybe about 20 to 30 minutes before the incident actually happened. Mm-hmm. His car was disabled, like I said. Me knowing him, his battery went dead because he was sitting there with the car off, playing his radio, blasting his radio, and his battery went dead. That's mm-hmm. me knowing my son. I know that's probably what happened. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that I held within me for so long was that I was angry with him because we had AAA, mm-hmm. and he did not call them. Mm-hmm. And me knowing my son, I think that why he did not call them is because AAA was in my name. He probably would have thought that he had to call me to call AAA when he had his own card. And he didn't want to wake me up at that hour. He knew he would have got yelled at, mm-hmm. which I probably would have. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I still would have probably called AAA.
Right.
But he did not do that. So that's one of the things that angers me to this day is, why didn't you call AAA?
And
Not to say that AAA would have saved his life, but they probably could have came and assisted him. He probably wouldn't have been there as long as he was.
right. And as I was reading the book, you can see that.
Yeah.
In each, as the book goes, like she said, it's her journal. So this book is not like, and she says it in the beginning of the book. What makes this book, because I don't want to do all the talking, because this is your book. What makes this book different from other books? I know what makes it different, but what makes it different?
For me, I think what makes this book different is that it's not fiction. It is every single emotion, every single thought and feeling that I was having. Plain and simple. If I was thinking it, I wrote it. And I didn't write it in a way where I was like, I knew that other people was going to be reading it. I wrote it to my son. I'm cursing him out. I'm telling him, why'd you do this? Or why didn't you do something else? It was really raw. I'm talking to my son.
That's what I got out of it. And my piece, what I think what makes your book so different is that in most books you'll find chapters.
Yeah.
This book goes straight through. There's no chapters. And after I finished reading, I was like, what chapter? Wait, there was no chapter. It starts off with a day, a time, a day and a time. Whether it's in the middle of the night, and it's a reoccurring time throughout the middle of the night. I'm not going to give that time up. But throughout the book, there's a reoccurring time that you normally are in this book.
Yes.
And then you also share the process of grieving. So transparent with it. What did it feel like while you were writing this? Because I can't say why you were writing this book because you didn't know that it was going to be a book.
Correct.
But how did you feel as you were writing each day, even up to the 2-year point?
I've been asked that question many times if the book was therapeutic for me. Me thinking back on when I was writing, I would have to say no, it was not therapeutic. For me, it was just me venting. It was just me screaming and hollering and just wait for me to get it out. But that's really, really what it was. Just why? Just I can't stand this, and my pain is just. That's one of the things you can't see in the book. Is that in my original journal, every teardrop that hit the page, I had my head down while I was writing, resting it on my shoulder. I circled the teardrops in my journal. And that's something that you can't get in this book.
Right.
You may be able to feel some of it in some days.
Yeah.
But there's no way in the world. I could read something and reflect on how I felt that day, and it would be just like I felt it yesterday.
Right. Now, have you read the book yourself, or you haven't read it?
No. Only in editing mood.
Okay.
I had someone else edit, and they would say, well, this word is wrong, that word is wrong, and I just go to that page and correct it. But I still have not, since I put it in book format, I have not read it.
Wow. That's
Even when I was writing my journal, I would write whatever particular day, and I put it down, and I would not look at it again until I was ready to write again.
Right.
So it just kept, I put it down and write. I never looked back on what I wrote.
And so you had a book release.
Yes.
How did that go?
It went very well. It went very well. Actually, I had a couple of them.
Did you?
Yeah. I was at Wilmington Library, Dover Library, and I just spoke with the Dover Capital Rotary Club last week. So.
All right. That's awesome. How did that feel for people to say, can you sign my book? Like, how did that feel?
I tell people all the time, I don't consider myself an author because of the way I wrote it. Because like I tell you, it wasn't intended to be a book. It's just my journal. But I feel honored, when they asked me to sign a book.
You're lighting up as you talk about it, so that says a lot. You see her lighting up as she's talking about it. How did you feel when you first saw the book in its form? Like, this is the picture of your son on the front. So how did you feel when you actually, because I know they send it in the mail, and you open it up, and you just look. How did you feel?
I was excited. I was really excited, but at the same time, I was protective over it. Only because I know what was in it. I know some of the things that I was, feeling and going through. When I know that someone ordered the book offline, I would ask them, okay, well, how did you think? Did it interest you? But how like you got the book, I would be like, okay, I don't want to give you the book. You know, if I'm seeing you face to face and I know you want the book, I was like, no, I can't give you a book. I know it's in it because I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
But if it's somebody I don't know, then it's, you know, it's a little different vibe.
That's.
But I was excited when I got that proof copy, and yeah.
It was done, like it was finished. And you know what I liked about the book? There was a couple parts. But throughout the book, as you were talking, there was anger.
Yes.
You had anger, and you had anger not just towards your son. You had anger towards the perpetrators, and then there was anger expressed to your family. But at the end of the book, you clarified. You kind of, well, you didn't kind of, you did. The things that you put throughout the book at the end, because the whole time I'm reading this book, I was like, oh, she is really angry. Like, they didn't show up, they didn't do this, and at the end it was like, you know what? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the parts that I liked about it. All the way at the last page. Yeah. You got that. Yeah. I'm sorry. That was my feelings of how I felt, and they do love you, and they if they could have been there, they would have been there, and that's just my own personal feelings. Yeah. And so that was real. Can you explain that? Like, how did you get to that point at the end? Because that was like 2 years into the whole situation. At the last page, like that was powerful. How did you, like, what was going on?
I think that, you know, after 2 years of talking to Marcus and dealing with it, that I was just, it was just going to be what it is. What it is what it is. I have to either accept it and move on, or just let it torture me. And I just had to let go of that part of my anger. There's still a lot of things that I'm angry about, still a lot of questions and answers that I have. But as far as being angry at certain people for certain reasons, I definitely let that go. I had to for my own sanity.
That was awesome. I'm telling you, that was the right way to end a book. And it was another part that I was interested in as well, because I dream. And so while I'm going through your book, I see, Marcus, I had another dream about you last night. And that's the part I was like, man, I wonder if she's going to have another one. And then you have it, and you just describe it so vividly.
Yeah. My dreams were very, very real. And I'm not the type of person to say dreams are true or not true, but I think dreams mean different things for different people for different reasons. And I do know that some dreams are just out there, far-fetched, just really don't mean nothing. But mine was, I just kept feeling like he was trying to tell me something, that something was going on. Even the dream that with my father in connection with my son, that was just off the chart for me.
Can you tell the viewers about one of the dreams? Just one.
I think the dream that sticks out the most to me is I talk about I had went to the cemetery, dug him up, and it was like the dream was in pieces. I remember digging him up. Then the next part of the dream I remember is being like in a movie theater. You know, the rows of seats, and we were sitting there, and he was laying in the seats next. You know, the arms come up. He was laying in the seats next to me. Nobody was in front of us, but I do remember people being behind us. And I kept thinking to myself, I wonder if they could see my son laying here. I remember leaving the theater and leaving him there, and coming back, and he was still laying there. Then the next part of the dream was I had went to talk to a psychiatrist about what I had done. I had dug him up. And while I'm talking to him, the next thing, he must have been like on the second or third floor, and we're looking out the window. Next thing I know, I see him out there playing basketball. He looked fine. Physically, you know, his body wasn't deteriorated or anything like that. Only thing was, while I was watching him, it looked like he was just moving in slow motion, just, you know, real slow. And we went down there to talk to him, and the psychiatrist was telling him that, you know, your mother did something that was wrong. You have to go back now. And he was saying that he didn't want to go back. And again, looking at Marcus while he's talking, his face, you know, still handsome as ever. But when he opened his mouth, it was like, it was just all slimy and gooey, and, you know, like his face, his jaw had dropped down to one side, and not to be gory on, you know, on this or anything like that.
It's real talk.
But, you know, that's what I saw, even though the outside of his face was fine. And what he said was, you know, I don't want to go back, and I'm in control of my own body, the psychiatrist had said to him, yes, that is, but your mother is more in control of, over you. And as he was saying that, a truck had pulled up, and Marcus had looked at the truck. We all looked at the truck, and then he was gone.
Wow.
So I don't know if that truck was significant as to taking him back, but that's how the dream ended.
Wow.
And to me, I'm like, why doesn't he want to go back? What's going on? And even though I've had other dreams where he said, Mom, I'm okay.
Wow, that is so interesting about those dreams. Like I said, I have dreams myself, so when I read that, it just pulled me in even more. So when we get back, we're going to talk about that excerpt that I read in the beginning of the show and the real talk behind how mothers really feel after grieving after losing a child. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned. The title of the book, 4 a.m., is a reference to when Joreen was notified at 4 a.m. in the morning that her son had been tragically taken away from her. Joreen's hope is that the book is read by young adults, that she wants them to stop, take a step back, and think about what they're doing before they pull the trigger to take another person's life. She wants them to think about the aftermath, and that it will not be only ruining their future and their lives, but the other person's family that they will be destroying. Better yet, they could be thinking about their mother, their sister, their aunt, or their grandmother that is suffering, and that it could be them that is lying in the casket, 6 feet underground, covered with dirt. It could be their mother writing this book, pleading for the senseless crimes to end, and getting the notification at 4 a.m.